Okay, so this test is going to be the twin V10 400 horsepower. So you have 3 options with the outboards, and you can also do inboards with 2 options if you want the open transom. Proper testing conditions outside today, guys. We've got wind against current, it's choppy, it's windy, so it's going to be a lot of fun. If you're in the right conditions, this thing is going to be an absolute weapon of a boat. Feels good. I like this hull. 42 knots. We've still got more to play with. I think we have to do it. Okay, ladies and gents, this is going to be a real test. We have some genuine conditions out here today. Lots of short, sharp chop, which we're heading down swell and downwind of at the moment, but you're going to notice when we head into the waves how cool this hull is. She's really going to cut it up, and we'll still be able to maintain some decent cruising speeds. So where are we? We've got the current. It heads north. Of our location just here. So what's it called again? This is the it's the Gulf Stream. It's the Gulf Stream. There you go. So that's what heads all the way to Europe, but that's ripping north, and we've got some wind heading south. So it's essentially wind against tide. So that's the worst conditions that you want to be in. So ordinarily, you guys are probably not going to be out in these sorts of conditions, but this is the best opportunity to film a boat. Because if we can show it in this sort of conditions, well, then you know it's going to be really comfortable on your day out. So I'm just going to take it through her paces. We're going to run her at a few different speeds. I've got fuel flows. We're running the twin V10 400s. Let's get going. All right, trim down. I've got the zip wakes off. We do have zip wakes available to us. I've chosen not to operate them today. Haven't felt the need to just yet. And increasing that speed up to 24 knots, and I can see per motor 35 gallons and liters on this one, European boat, even better. So that gives us a total of 70 liters consumption, and we're just cruising, as you can see, up and over these waves at 24, 25 knots very, very comfortably. That's a 3,100 RPM. And I just want to point out the first thing, if you haven't driven with these new V10s, they are a lovely motor. So you've got a lot of torque down low, so the heavier boats will really get up and boogie a lot easier than, say, on the V8s, which are a smaller motor compared to these ones. They look quite good on the back of this thing too. And then it enables us to sustain some really good speed. So I'm just going to increase my speed just a tad, 3,200, and let's get up to 3.3 and then 3.4. Super comfy. And then we're going to run upwind, and we're going to belt into it. Now, don't forget that this boat is available in a coupe. I had a look at it this morning. It's the same hull. So if you're looking at this and you're viewing from a colder part of America or the world and thinking, I love this design, but I want the weather protection, the answer is it can be done. It's full windscreen, wraparound glass, and it's quite a good looking thing too. So we're sitting on 3,400 RPM, getting 26, almost 27 knots, and this feels adventure boat-like in terms of her motion through the waves. She's cutting, she feels nimble. I have so much more power in reserve, and the noise levels are wonderful. So if you're a social person and you want to sustain conversation, even out on that very back seat just there, at this speed, 3,400 RPM, we're burning a total of 80 litres of both motors. You can just talk without even really needing to raise your voice. So it's that good. So I'm going to just peel off. Actually, before I do that, I'll just do a couple little turns here. Feel the boat, very responsive. And she heels in. She feels like a light, nimble boat. when you bank into those turns. Okay, so we're going to start taking the chop on the side. I'm going to come off on the power a little bit. I'm going to turn my zip wakes on, and then I'm just going to maintain. I'm at 18 knots right now, and I just want to feel this out because it's the most uncomfortable sea state for going into the wind. So we'll just feel this out at 18 knots. We've got 60 litres total consumption, and that's giving me 19, 20 knots now. And I feel like I'm okay to speed up and start skipping across a few more of those waves. So I'll just bump that up to 21, and now hitting 22. And we've got some good waves here, guys. I love this seating position just here. I have got the bolster flipped up, which gives me really good veers. I feel like I've got good control. If you were worried about your throttle control in these conditions, just transit to single lever and rest your palm on the base of the throttle like I am now, and then you're going to have, or you'll reduce the risk of over revving in bumpy conditions. What you may notice me doing is using the tips of my fingers if I'm worried about too much movement, but this is actually not too bad. I'm quite in control. Got a couple of big waves on us now, and this one's a big one. Oh, beautiful. Chopped it up. This camera too is going to pick up that quite clearly as well, so that's going to be useful. And let's increase the speed now. Let's increase the speed. I love having less than ideal conditions to show you guys what these boats can do. So now I'm at 24 knots. This is where this V action up forward and the flat stem bow is just getting put to work. I can see the zip wakes helping me. So they're bearing the nose at times, which is a slight advantage upwind. But for the downwind, I'm actually going to deactivate it because I don't want the gyro burying the nose unnecessarily. Obviously, we do have a flat stem bow. We don't have the flare. So if you're going to go too fast downwind and then trim down, you can run the risk of sending a little bit of water up and over. But what you may notice right now, at a sensible driving speed and the right angle of attack, we are sending the water out because those rub rails are catching most of the spray that comes up the side of the hull, and they're dissipating it out to the side. Obviously, you're still going to get a little bit of spray at times because it's windy and we're on a boat. All right, so now I'm going to deactivate that. I'm going to bear away. Bearing away. Got wind on my starboard side now. I've got a couple little lumpy ones here. Soft landings, feels good. I like this hull. I like this hull. It drives as good as it looks. Let's just give it some now. Okay, we're going to start to bear away. So now I'm at 30 knots. I'm not going to do wide open throttle out here, guys, because that's just irresponsible. But I'm going to give it some. Oh, feels good. A little bit of trim up on the motor now. Just see how lively she'll want to get. That's 35 knots. Skipping across waves. Not a problem. Skipping across waves. Really good. That's 4,000 RPM. Guys, we have 2,000 RPM left over. We're consuming only 100 litres total. And we're getting a speed return of between 33 to 35 knots in the ocean downwind. We need to see how much more we can do in flat water because this is a really sporty feel. The power to weight ratio with these motors is fantastic. So if you're in the right conditions, this thing is going to be an absolute weapon of a boat with this much horsepower on the back. Just feel how lively that is at the helm. Don't forget, we got a toilet, a separate shower, and 2 proper bedrooms downstairs. Like, that's great. This is awesome. Okay, I'm having too much fun. All right, we're gonna go in the inlet now, and then I'm gonna find some flat water and run this thing at full speed. Okay, speed test time. I'm doing this on the flat water. I'm doing this deliberately on the flat water because this thing felt so powerful out there in the ocean, we only ran it up to 4,000 RPM, and I just knew we needed some flat conditions to properly test her out. So I'm going to use this opportunity I have now. I've got one boat coming in the opposite direction. We'll just get her up and moving first. I got the zip wakes on, I've got engine trim fully down. We'll get up and boogieing, and then I'll wind her up to wide open throttle at some point. All right, straight up to 26 and 29 knots, no problems. Watch out for debris in the water there. Geez, that'll give you a bad day. Gonna have some boat wash coming in a second from this Sea Ray day boat. I'm just gonna chop through that, angle my bow, 3, 2, 1, boom, boom, and increasing power now. So 30 knots at now at 35, 4,450 RPM is giving me an easy 35 plus knots. We got a lot more left in the rev range, guys. I've done a little bit of trim up on the motors. I feel good seated. I don't feel like I need to stand. 40 knots. I'm just going to play with the trim a little bit, see what happens. She's lively, she's fun. That's 5,000 RPM, 42 knots. We've still got more to play with. I think we have to do it. Okay, a little bit of boat wash. Not totally flat. 5,400 RPM, 44, 45. She likes the trim. Got some debris in the water. I'm gonna have to slow down with this boat up ahead. 5,700 RPM. I see 49 knots. We're ripping. That's 50 knots. Oh, that's awesome. We're almost at 6,000 RPM. I'm running out of runway. 3, 2, 1. I see 52.9 knots. This is probably a 55 knot boat. Crikey, that's awesome. You've got to get these 400s. I think for the sake of spending an extra 10K, if that's what it is in US dollars, do it, get it, because you'll have a lot of fun. I'm just gonna reverse my direction of travel and cruise back the other direction now, and we'll do it at a more sensible speed. I didn't really pay attention to the fuel flow at that speed because I had some other things going on in my head, like not hitting mansions and debris in the water. But let's just accelerate now, trim down. She does like a little bit of trim up at those higher speeds. Let's just give it a bit more of an aggressive. Oh yeah, feel that torque. Okay, now we want to trim up on the motors. Straight away up to 30 knots. I'm coming back on the power there. I'm going to dial into what I would consider a fast cruise for this boat. I think a fast cruise is 4,100 to 4,200 revs. Let's just feel that out a bit more. Okay, I'm at 4.4 now, but that's my trim. I got a 118 litre per hour consumption. I'm seeing 36 to 37 knots. I'm going into the wind now, and now I'm just going to come back on the pace a little bit, back to 4,100, play with my trim a little bit, got some debris in the water, leave that to port, and see, I can sit happily on 30 to 31 knots at a consumption of 98 litres. I think that's your fast cruise range, because you can do a slow cruise, it's not slow, but slower, at 27 knots. 27 knots is 3,500 revs in flat water, and that's giving me an 80 litre total consumption per hour. So let's go through this guy's waves. 3, 2, take them head on and on us now. Leave the debris to port. This is so much fun, guys. Considering we've got accommodation, a separate shower, all this super bougie upholstery up on deck, I think you can definitely call this a driver's boat. I'm going to have to come off the pace up here. That's the end of my runway. What a pleasure. Okay, we'll go from here. We'll check into one of the canals off the side and we'll test out the parking. Okay, so we've just come into one of the side canals to get out of the way of all the traffic and just give you a brief demonstration on the slow speed maneuverability of the boat. I'm not going to touch anyone's dock because this is America and people have guns here, and so I don't really want to push the friendship with anyone that I don't know. I'm sure they're friendly. So what I'll do, I'll just use the dock as a reference point, and then you guys can get a feel for how maneuverable she is. First things first, skyhook, boom, boom. Super handy when you need to buy yourself some time, prepare the boat, get the fenders out of the storage lockers, prepare your lines if you don't have them already ready on the dock, and just look to the side. The boat is doing the thinking for me right now. All I had to do was press skyhook, so it's a wonderful piece of technology to do functions like that if you need. Just see here, thruster on off, that's the bow thruster, so boom, 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 boom. So it's not like a traditional thruster like you may have seen on some other boats. And before we use the throttles, I'll actually just use the joystick and we'll spin the boat on the spot here. You can dial this speed up and down, but pay attention, the weight and design of the boat is allowing us to get good maneuverability or spin rate at the moment, and we're spinning pretty much on the spot with just some moderate tension on the joystick there in terms of swiveling it around. What I'll do now, I'll just slow that rate of turn with some opposite rate of travel. There you go, that stops us. And now I'll just side slip the boat one way. We've got a little bit of waves coming in from the main canal, which might affect us. And I'm just going to side slip the boat to starboard now. See how effective this is, guys? So we're really moving at a decent clip here, but the engines, particularly these V10s, you can just notice that extra torque that you have available to you. And now I'm going to reverse that direction of travel. Lots of power. Lots of power. So now I'm going to just practice reversing in throttle mode. So just remember to trim down on the motors, because when you come out of joystick, if you engage the throttle, it has a little bit of trim up. Now I suspect, but I don't know, that's why we're testing this, this boat should track reasonably well in reverse because she's a deep V hull. And I'm doing that now, just simulating you guys reversing into a marina berth with fingers, as many of you are going to be doing in Australia. So that's not too difficult. Let's now stop the boat and practice transverse thrust. We've got some waves coming in from the main channel. These waves are on us now. And you can see I've got plenty of control, even with these expensive boats on either side of me. This is not a problem. And a couple of waves coming through now, hitting us on the beam. But we can totally do that without any drama. Obviously pay attention to wind and tide and all that sort of stuff, but we've got plenty of maneuverability there. Final thing is the bow thruster, and we will see how effective it is. I'm just gonna, if you look forward and you can see that grab handle on the bow, I'm just gonna bow thrust to starboard. Yeah, that's plenty torquey. And now let's stop that rate of turn. Okay, now let's bow thrust to port. Yep, that'll be useful when you need it. Remember your gunnels are a little bit higher compared to some of the boats in this category because we have so much interior volume. So we're going to have a smidgen more windage, and a tiny bit more if you went for the coupe versus this open style. So that's just a factor to consider. I think we'll just activate Skyhook here. That all looks good. And let's wrap it up out here in the sunshine. So this is a really, really nice boat. Just keeping an eye on the wind. I probably should have put the arse into the wind before I pressed Skyhook, but it's working. Okay, great. Guys, I love this thing. It's a pleasure to drive. If you are someone who has come from an adventure hull and you want more accommodation and more capability in terms of entertaining and overnighting, have a look at this thing. Have a look at this thing. Also have a look on the website at the coupe, because if you don't want the full Miami vibes open style like what we've got on this boat, you don't have to have it. And that's what I really like about it. We've got a wonderful, smooth, capable hull, and you've got the option to have a few different interior styles as you see fit. So if you thought this was fun, you need to go and check out the 48 Coupe. It's an absolute weapon. I drove that boat last week. I'm going to link to that up on the screen right now. Coming to you from Florida. It's been a lot of fun. Subscribe, like, share with your mates. See you next time.